can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, excellent. I feel a little bit like Britney Spears with this microphone on. It's very exciting. It's probably all you want to hear me not sing, actually. I'm not a singer. But anyway, what I am is, my name is Julie Roberts. I am from a consultancy called More Strategic. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about digital tribes and what that actually means, and how you can create your tribes and love them hard. So I know there's a blend of organisations here today, so whether we're talking about fundraising, volunteering, campaigning, the concept is all the same, okay? It's about understanding your supporters, your donors, your campaigners, your volunteers, and how you bring them together. So in the next half an hour or so, these are the key things we're going to be covering. Okay, so I want you to understand or learn how to understand your tribe. Who are they? How can you find more of them? Okay, I also want to talk about CX principles. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, I will talk to you about that. And I also want to go into a little bit more detail about how to segment engagement. So when you think about digital, a few years ago, we all wanted more fans, more followers, more likes. That's not so much the case these days. We want more engagement. We want to have conversations with our supporters. I'm also going to talk to you about the theory of paradox of choice and how do you think, feel and do like your supporters. Okay, so these are the key things. By the end of this session, you will know everything about it, them, all of it. You will be geniuses by the time we leave. Okay, so just a little bit about me. So as I said, most importantly, I am a mum of two lovely boys, as you can see on the screen. My eldest in the middle, just there next to Daddy, Noah, he's 6. And the other side to him is my little Theo, and he's 3. They keep me very, very busy. That is my number one priority. They are my tribe, and my husband Rob there, who's at home with the kids today. So that's my number one job. My second job is I wear 2 hats. Okay, so I am the director of More Strategic. My background is I've worked in not-for-profits for quite a long time, 13, 14 years, across the UK and Australia. So I've got 2 different markets on how different charities are approaching this. My expertise is really around peer-to-peer fundraising, how communities are actually supporting each other to raise money, looking at supporter journeys, and I spend a lot of time talking to donors to understand why they give, why they volunteer, why they campaign for their cause. So that's one half of my job. My other half is I actually work 3 days a week for a charity to help them raise more money, and that's Pancreatic Cancer UK. So I'm still fully grounded in the charity sector. I love it, it's my passion, and I think I'll be doing it to the day I die. Okay, so that's enough about me. Let's talk more about what I'm here to talk to you about, and that's about digital tribes. So, am I talking okay? Because I realise I'm very ignorant and only talking in English. I'm afraid I don't know Lithuanian. Right, excellent. Okay, so if you Googled, did Wikipedia, what is a tribe? This is what comes up, okay? So hopefully you can read that. So I've circled there, the main thing that's really interesting is it's about the community of people who share a common interest. Okay, so first and foremost, it's about that common interest. If you carry on reading, it says, blah, 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 affiliated to each other through social media. Now, of course, you can have tribes that don't belong on social media. Clearly, the tribes long existed before social media did. But this day and age, it's a really easy way to connect to your supporters, your donors. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So how can you understand, how can you find people who've got a common interest about your cause out in the social media world? So today, one of the key things that I want to do is I want to walk you through the 11 golden learnings that I have actually learnt for the last sort of 15 years that I've been working in the industry, to try and help you really simply find out, wherever you are in creating your tribe. So there is no first point on here, hence why it's a circle diagram. You could be trying to find more people who have a common interest in your cause, or you could already have an amazing network of supporters, volunteers, campaigners, fundraisers, and you just need to find out, how do I actually love them more? How do I show more appreciation to these wonderful, wonderful people? Or actually, I've got a group of people, but I don't really know them very well. How do I get to know them more? How do I keep them inspired? Therefore, find more people like them. What are those common interests? And the key thing about all of this is about supporter centricity. So your supporters have to be in the heart of your organisation. It's all about them. It's not about you. As much as you like to tell yourself that, and this has taken me a long time to understand this. So, you know, as an organisation, you want your donors to get from A to Z. No. It's about whether they want to start at Z and go to A. That's what you need to understand, and it's really, really important, and that's how you engage them. That's how you create a tribe. It's about walking in their shoes, about understanding them, knowing them, and loving them. Not just loving them a little bit, loving them really hard. And that's what this session is all about. So I just want to start by giving you some live examples. So this is a charity that I used to work at in Australia called the Cancer Council of New South Wales. Interestingly, we started off, when I first started there, they said to me, Julie, we want you to raise more money. I was like, okay, that's not a new thing that I've heard from lots of charities. Fine, okay. The money that they were making was going up and down, ping-ponging every single year, and they didn't understand why that was happening. Why were they not exponentially growing, and how could we change that for them? So my first question was to ask them about how much did they know about their supporters and what they were doing and why they were doing it. And the answer was that they didn't really know very much about any of it, which didn't really surprise me, to be quite honest. So I did a really quick survey out to all the people who had raised money already and asked them a little bit about why they were doing it, what their common interests were. So if you think back to the original slide, so if you think back to this, common interest, I wanted to understand why they were doing it and how I, or we, as the organisation could help them. So interestingly, you can see there's two areas that I've circled. So these were the key sort of ranking information that came back from that research piece. So yes, no surprises, they want practical help from us, how to fundraise, how to plan their event. Yep, that makes lots of sense. I totally understand that. Hence why I haven't circled those. Those are in the resource area. What I have circled is in the two areas that say advice and management. And that was because that really shocked us to see that information that was coming back, because we were thinking like us and not like the supporter. And that was really because actually they didn't want to hear advice from us. No. They wanted to hear from advice from other people who were doing the same thing. So for a long time, we were banging out information, talking to these fundraisers about the ways we think they should fundraise, how they should spend their time and their energy, talking to their networks. And actually they didn't want to hear from us. They wanted to hear from other like-minded individuals who have the same common interest. So first and foremost, we knew we had to completely change our tact. Interestingly, how they wanted to communicate to those people was via social networks. So straight away we knew we needed to develop a community of like-minded people where they already were in their personal life, and to allow them to communicate to each other. So we thought, we know the answer. We're going to create a whole new program called Do Your Thing. Because what they wanted to do, this particular case study, was all about helping people fundraise for the Cancer Council. They wanted to fundraise in their own way. Now this can be applied through any types of fundraising or campaigning or volunteering. It doesn't have to be specifically for fundraising. But we thought, we know what we want to do. They want to feel part of a community. They want to feel like they belong to something. And so that's why we felt like we needed to create this new brand identity called Do Your Thing. So they'd already said that they wanted practical tools. So we created how you can help, how they did their thing, ask questions. We gave them all the tools, tips and tricks that they wanted. And we gave them simple ways to fundraise, and we gave them the case studies of others, because they had already said, we want to hear from other people who are already doing this. Great, we thought. We've come up with the answer. This is it. So, it worked brilliantly. What we also did was create an event map. So this that you can see, that's New South Wales in Australia. So somewhere in there, where all the little dots are, is Sydney. If anyone knows Sydney, anyone been to Oz? And what we did was, as people fundraised, as they set up their online fundraising page, they actually appeared on this map. It told people what they were doing, how they were fundraising, what their goal was, how they got to that fundraising page. You could go and read their story as to why they were fundraising for the Cancer Council. It was quite an amazing thing. It really did feel, you did really feel connected to people who literally were down the road to you, and you had no idea that they were fundraising for the same charity and that you had the same common interest. So within the first year, we had 1,300 events go on that map, which were already existing year on year. We always had similar numbers, but we hadn't ever visualised it out to the community. So straight away, people were becoming very, very inspired, which was fantastic. But what we needed and what we kept doing was we kept listening. So one of the key pillars that I showed you was about knowing your supporters. Just because you do a research piece 2 years ago doesn't mean to say you never look at research ever again. You have to keep listening to your supporters. You have to be nimble. And so one of the things that we noticed that we did very wrong was to create Do Your Thing. So at the time we thought we were amazing. We did everything right. As you can see, the Cancer Council logo is over here on the right-hand side because they wanted to be part of the community. That's what they wanted. That's what they told us. But actually, we forgot about the common interest. The common interest was the Cancer Council. They want to find a cure for cancer. We'd actually taken that element away because we were so caught up in building the community, we forgot the brand. So what we did when we went to the social media channels and built that group, we realised that we couldn't call it Do Your Thing because it meant nothing. If you went into Facebook and typed Do Your Thing, would you know that's got anything to do with cancer? No. Bow, big fat no, we did a big wrong. But we changed it, and we changed Do Your Thing to Do It for Cancer, and immediately bringing back that tie to the overarching brand of the Cancer Council. That reinforced the brand, it still created the community, and actually people felt more empowered than ever to be involved in this network. So it's really important to always keep in mind that common interest, but helping them also build that community. So those were the two key things, biggest learnings that we got out of that research piece. The next thing, second golden learning, which is really important, is to talk about CX principles. And that is really to help you build relationships. Now, does anyone know what CX stands for? Louder? Yes, perfect. Gold star for you. So it's customer experience. Now, this is not a new thing. It's been around for many, many years. The commercial sector have been doing this brilliantly for many years. In the not-for-profit sector, it's just as important. In fact, it's probably more important. We've only just started to awaken our worlds to CX principles. And it's important that everything that you do, this always has to be at the forefront of your mind, because your supporters, whether they're supporting you or going to their local bank, they expect the same experience. They don't expect, oh, you're a charity, you're a not-for-profit. I don't mind if you give me a rubbish experience. That's okay, you're allowed because you're a charity. But over here, my commercial bank has to give me the best experience ever. They don't think like that. They want ease. They want to be able to donate to you very easily. They want to be able to register their interest of volunteering. They want to be able to campaign very easily for you. They don't want a different experience in life. So we have to make sure that everything we do when we're designing our websites, our forms, our ways to communicate to our supporters, it's quick and easy. So I just want to show you a quick video because I think this is a great way to really understand how getting customer experience wrong can really damage your organisation.
Okay, number 57.
Can I have a decaf cappuccino, please?
You have to pop you on hold while I transfer you to the coffee department.
Hi there, how can I help?
She said she's put me through to the coffee department. I don't quite get it.
Coffee department, sorry, you got through to the lager department. Give me a minute.
No?
Would you like to make an application for some food or drink today? I just need the first line of your address and your mother's maiden name.
What?
I'm just going to pop you on hold while I transfer you to the wine department. Is that
okay? Double Havana 7 and Coke, please.
Oh, blimey, that's completely on my reach. I'll put you on hold for that one.
You reserve the right to cancel your fish and chips without prior notification, whereas you do not notify us in writing.
Business is important to us.
Hi there, what can I get you? Thank you very much, that's £5.
Cappuccino's £5.
£6, increased charges. Certainly, that'll be £100 of unnecessary charges.
Oh, how much? For a wine and a... What?
Yeah, so it's £6 for the wine, and then the rest is unnecessary charges.
No.
I'm afraid I can't accept your payment at the moment.
I'll get you in a minute. I'm going to pull you over the bar. We both over there having a conversation.
I can put you onto our conversation.
Awful.
Yeah, it was awful, yeah.
Eventually I felt a bit angry and I wanted to give up.
Wherever you go, if you pay for a service and it was bad, you wouldn't go back. The service was absolutely terrible and I thought I'd never come back again.
Thank you for your custom today. Would you mind taking a short survey? Your feedback is so important to us.
Thank you.
Okay, so I hope that helps you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So your supporters are no different to what you just saw there at the pub bank weird combo, but their expectation for what they expect from you is no different. So it's really important to always think about that, how you're building your relationships and how you carry that on within your journey. And that was something that I'll talk to you a little bit more about towards the end. So my third golden learning then is about once you've got these wonderful supporters in your life, how do you keep them engaged? How do you acquire more and keep them engaged at the same time? So something that we learn at the Cancer Council really interestingly was that you can't just have one voice that speaks to all. That doesn't work. Okay, so you have to start thinking. So for us, looking at the fundraising world, we had people, these wonderful people that were out there raising money for us in all different forms and fashions. Some people were holding morning teas, some people were running marathons, other people were shaving all their hair off. It was completely different, however they wanted to fundraise, and that was fantastic for us. So they were what we called our doers, okay? So this is what you can see here on the left. They were the ones that we needed to showcase. They were the ones already out there doing a wonderful job for us. So we started telling their stories on our social platforms, all the things that they were doing. We then knew that we had two other very different types of supporters that were on our platforms, on our social platforms, but they weren't fundraising yet. So we had people that were out there watching us, watching every post that we did, thinking about maybe what could I do? What could I do to help this cause? I'm not quite ready yet, but I will get there eventually, fingers crossed. And then we also had other people that were on our social posts that were talkers. So they'd happily comment on many posts that we did, what other people were commenting on. They were always there, very, very active. They were our voice that wasn't from our charity, our organisation. They were talking on our behalf. These three different groups of people are incredibly important, but what it meant was we couldn't just do a one-size-fits-all post. We needed posts that were going to engage each and every one of these. So A, to retain them, but also to acquire more like-minded people who had that common interest. So we started doing, posts for our doers to show what they were doing, how they were fundraising. We then did posts for thinkers, inspirational quotes, inspirational thoughts of the day that would really make them start thinking about what impact they could have for that cause. And then we had other posts that would allow our talkers to comment on instantly, posing them a question, giving them polls, all different types of ways that you can engage your different audiences. But it's really important to segment your current audiences to acquire more like-minded people. So of course, by doing these different posts, you end up getting more doers, which is exactly what you want in your cause, so you can make more money. Also, what I spoke about was because you're engaging with these people, like I said, today isn't about how to get more followers and fans and likes, etc. Today is more about engaging your organisation, your tribe. How do you keep them with you? Because we segmented and really started to understand our audience, it meant that they stayed with us. They weren't going to other organisations that kind of did similar things because they didn't really understand our organisation that well. We were engaging them so they stayed with our cause and didn't go away. And that meant that we could exponentially grow. So year on year, we weren't starting from the baseline again. If they'd come back and do a fundraiser again, it meant we could just acquire more new, but start already with a baseline of fundraising money. Okay, so it was incredibly important. It worked for two different reasons: acquisition and retention. My fourth golden rule is about providing inspiration. Okay, so you've got these wonderful doers out there doing their wonderful types of fundraising for you. You have to showcase this ongoing to make sure that those doers and thinkers and talkers become more doers. And this is something that we took a lot of time and effort in. Now, let me tell you, building these stories is not easy. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes loads of phone calls and emails, but it is well worth it. So if you can educate your fundraisers or your supporters, campaigners, etc., to take videos, pictures, voice shots of what they're doing, we live in an iPhone world. There is no reason why your supporters can't do this, okay? But my God, it works amazingly to inspire others to do the same thing. And it's not in your voice, it's in their voice, which again is really, really important. So you can just see here the numbers of likes that we were getting on some of these posts, and the click-throughs means the click that they were getting to go through to their fundraiser page. So interestingly, what we were seeing by helping build this tribe was that randoms were donating to randoms. So they'd never met them before in their life. They were going on their fundraising page and donating money because they had inspired them of why they were fundraising and what they were doing. But that was because they had the common interest of wanting to support the Cancer Council. And that was incredibly important and something that we did not expect to see, because generally people expect that their donors will be coming from their own personal network. The fifth most important golden learning is about personalised content. So this is something that, if any of you have done any reading on behavioural economics, personalisation and CX principles, it's so important. We don't want to be a number, okay? We want our organisations to know who I am, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. I expect that. I expect you to know who I am and why I'm doing it. So this was something that a local hospice, which supports end-of-life care, did for their some of their supporters who were going overseas to do a trek for them. I think they were going to the Great Wall of China, and they did this post on their iPhone, really cheap, really simple, put it up on Facebook, but it meant an awful lot to their fundraisers.
Good luck, China Challengers! We'd like to wish our amazing China Challengers lots of luck as they trek the Great Wall of China this week. They've already raised more than £130,000 for us. You guys are amazing. Thank you!
So as you can see, it was nothing, you know, no fortunes went into building that, but it just meant a lot to those people, and that's what the aim of the game is. It's just really taking them on a journey, building that relationship with them. Never ever underestimate how important personalised content can be. The sixth golden learning really was about spreading the love, and this really was we stumbled across this by mistake to a certain extent. So we created Ambassador of the Month. So what that meant was we had really inspirational fundraisers who were just going above and beyond. And we thought, you know, how can we make them feel really loved? How can we show them that we appreciate how much we care? Now, sending them a lovely thank you letter and certificate. We used to pride ourselves on doing very personalised things, sending them special postcards to say thank you, handwritten, not just typed out. But this actually meant a lot more, and that was because they were semi-famous for that month. And it really meant a lot, not just to them, but to their network. So people that you might not be talking to on a daily basis, but they can visually see. So what we did was once a month we chose a fundraiser. We put them on our Facebook, on our social channels actually. And we told the story to the community. We did multiple posts through the month to explain to them why they were doing what they were doing, how they were going about it, and how they were going on their journey. And it actually showed that, you know, hey, these guys are just average people just like me, and if they can do it, so can I. So it provided inspiration. It really showed the person who was doing the fundraising how much we cared about them and how important it really was to our cause. And again, it helped with raising more money. It helped randoms give to randoms. So it did all of those past learnings that I spoke about. This really brought all of those together, as well as showing them a lot of love. The seventh golden learning is about supporter insights. So this was where I was talking about earlier that you have to keep listening. This is incredibly important. One of the key things, this is just one question that I asked lots of the fundraisers, like what their motivations were around, and no surprise, they supported the Cancer Council because it gives me hope that a cure will be found. 57% of people felt like that. But this is just the surface. You have to keep learning from your supporters. You have to give them a voice, because one of the key things, or lots of organisations do research, and that's amazing. And you might only be able to afford to do it once or twice every few years. But actually, there's really simple ways that you can give your supporters a voice very cheaply, and that's through things like feedback loop surveys. So do you have SurveyMonkey over here? You use SurveyMonkey? Yeah, good. I'm seeing lots of nods. Right, that's free, effectively. All you need to do is set up a questionnaire, quick, short, please do not make it more than like 10, 12 questions, and just have it on a continual loop. Ask people all the time, how are they feeling, why are they doing what they're doing. You know, there's 1,000 questions you can ask, but if you don't give them a voice to give you that feedback, how do you know how they're feeling and why they're doing what they're doing and where things could be going wrong? So supporter insights should be the lifeblood of what you're doing, and it should be ongoing all the time. It should never ever stop. When people call you up, there should be key power questions that you ask them to understand them more, to keep that learning going. So, following on from that, the 8th golden learning is about data digging. So all of your organisations should be data led. And what I mean by that, in lots of organisations are, but only by the O data. So O data is what we class as operational data. That really is information on how many fundraisers or volunteers or campaigners that you may have, how many donors that you have, how much are they raising, how much they give you every month. Like those typical operational stats. We look at those all the time. Yeah? Yeah, good. X and Y data. X data is experience data. So this is really around, you know, the experience that you are providing your supporters. So how many of you run a net promoter score to your organisations? One-ish. Exactly. So it's really, this is quite a simple way to understand if you're providing an experience, how well are your supporters or donors enjoying that experience. You just need to ask them 2 really simple questions, and that really helps you understand what experience level they feel like they are getting at that moment in time. So a really good example was Habitat for Humanity. They send volunteers overseas to help them build buildings for their programs. One thing that they were doing was they were sending 20 volunteers at a time. And then when those volunteers come back, they were asking them to fill out a 40 questions on their experience. Do you think many people actually filled that out? No. Why? Because they'd done it, and 2, because it was 40 questions long. Nobody wants to sit there filling out a boring form for 40 questions. So what they did was they changed it. They actually made it 3 questions, and they did it whilst the volunteers were still out there post day 1. And the reason why they wanted to do it, because they wanted to know if there was any issues going on, that they could sort them out whilst the volunteers were still out there on their project. That is incredibly important. They found out how what their volunteers' experience was like by developing this Net Promoter Score. So they could gauge if something was going wrong or very right very, very quickly. So X data is incredibly important to make sure that your donors are happy with the experience that they are getting from you. The last thing is about the Y data. Y data is about motivations. Why are they supporting your cause? So it's really important that you ask those questions. Why are they doing this for you? Is it because they've got a connection to the cause, or is it that they feel very passionate about what you're trying to achieve, or is it because their family told them to donate to your cause? Or is it because their company supports you and they've been told they have to? It's really important that you know that, because then you can pitch to them in the right way. So don't forget that when you're doing data digging, you need to think about O, X and Y data. The 9th golden learning is around the theory of paradox of choice. Has anybody heard of paradox of choice before? Yes? Brilliant. Okay, so paradox of choice, there's loads and loads of TED Talks and reading on this theory, but to cut a very long story short, the paradox of choice theory came from a piece of research that was done by supermarkets. They wanted to understand how many of the same product, i.e. it's strawberry jam, how many of the same strawberry jams but different brands could they have on the shelf before a consumer walked away and didn't buy any of it. They worked out that the optimum amount of brands of the same product was 6. Interestingly, so you can have 6 strawberry jams, not 7, 6, and they will still buy it. And the reason why was because the consumers got paralysed by choice. So they were overwhelmed by the amount of strawberry jams that they could choose from. And it's not really surprising, is it? You want with chunky bits, no pips. I mean, the list is endless of strawberry jams, I have to say. But it's no different for your supporters. So if you go on your website and you've got A to Z of fundraising, does anyone have A to Z of fundraising or A to Z of things that they can do for your organisation? Anything like that? No? Okay, so you're already winning. In the UK, lots of charities have, and Australia, have A to Z of fundraising. If any of your colleagues tell you to do that, tell them no, it does not work. Okay, you're overwhelming your donors, supporters, volunteers, etc. with choice. Do not give them any more than 6 ways to support you because they won't be able to make a decision. And how we discovered this at the Cancer Council was we ran focus groups with some of our fundraisers that fundraise for the Cancer Council. We also did a focus group with people who are non-fundraisers, and we did a third focus group with people who are fundraisers but for other causes. And we wanted to understand why they were choosing that way of fundraising. This is what came out. So when we gave them nothing, they couldn't come up with an idea. When we gave them 1,000 different ideas, they still couldn't come up with an idea. When we gave them a few ideas, all of a sudden, all the ideas were coming. They were having conversations about, oh, do you know, Auntie Flo that lives down the road, she did a knitting fundraiser. Or what about Joe in the pub? Oh, he did the quiz night. All these ideas started coming out because we didn't overwhelm them by choice. When we realised that from the focus group, we started digging around and found the paradox of choice. It made sense. We were overwhelming our supporters. So now, from then, we developed 6 different ways that people could get inspiration and ways to fundraise. And it worked. The 10th learning was that to be nimble. So, does anyone remember the ice bucket challenge? Yeah? Pretty big phenomena. Yeah, I actually remember standing in my shower in Australia, chucking a bucket of water over my head. But this is what this means, being nimble. That came and went really fast. We wasn't ready as an organisation to jump on the back of that fundraiser, but we could have been if we were nimble. So when we built our new Do It for Cancer website, we made sure that it was templated. So it was really simple. If something came out, so a new idea came out, we could just go, quick, create a new template, and then fundraisers can come and do what they want straight away. It doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to be ready for that next moment. And it will come. It's just you just don't get any warning when it's going to come. So being nimble about your approach is really, really helpful for new tribes, new people that will come to your tribe without any prior warning. My last and final, and probably one of the most important points, is about walking the walk. And what I mean by that is what I said right at the very beginning. And that really was about you need to stop thinking like what you want as an organisation, and you have to think like your supporters. You have to walk in their shoes. So I actually spend a lot of time working with charities on this on a daily basis. So you can see there, this is one of the hospices that I work with. On the wall there at the top is a persona template. So we'd done some research. We wanted to start to understand what groups of people were taking what types of actions and why were they doing it. And then we started to plot out the journey that they currently go on with that organisation. So that's the green millions of post-it notes you can see there. We went through and said, okay, on a daily basis, what does Susie do? Plotted it out. Then we said, okay, how does that work with our back-end processes? Who are they talking to? What letters are they getting? What physical? So people and things. And then the top two things was, okay, how do we think they're feeling right now? And what's their, how do they think and feel at these points? So their heart and their head, what's going on? How emotionally do we think they're feeling? Are they feeling a bit anxious that their fundraiser's coming up and they're thinking, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm starting to panic. How can we help them? Or are they thinking, wow, I just got my certificate through. I'm so proud of myself. How can we harness those memorable experiences or help our supporters so that we don't lose them on the journey, so that they register and then don't commit? How can we stop that happening? So this is really, really important, again, to start understanding what your supporters, your donors are going through and how you can harness them on that journey. You have to also understand that you might want to send them a series of email communications or a letter or whatever it is, an SMS, but they might not want that. So that's why walking the walk like your supporter is really, really important. I can't tell you how many charities I've worked with where they're talking to a typical 80-plus-year-old donor and they're trying to text them, or they're trying to email them and wondering why they're not getting much of a response. At that point, I'm saying to them, well, do you actually know that the average age of your supporter is 85? So why are you trying to text them? My nan can't even see the words on her mobile phone, let alone respond to your message. Now, I know that everyone is getting more tech savvy these days, and actually the older age brackets are the fastest growing on Facebook, so that's really important to know. But that's the importance of walking the walk. You have to think like your supporters and not like yourself and not what your cause wants. So, there are the 11 golden learnings. In a wrap-up of what you need to take away, these are the most important things, okay? So this is a reminder. So first of all, help people feel part of a tribe, a movement with one vision, a common interest. So that common interest is the most important thing you need to understand. What do your supporters commonly hold as their interest of why they support your cause? The second thing, build relationships. You need to gain trust and loyalty from your supporters. Don't treat them like a bank in a pub. That video. Just remember that video, okay? The third thing, you need to engage people differently. So you need to think that one size does not fit all. So you need to find out who are your doers, who are your thinkers, and who are your talkers. You need to inspire them. You know, what they're doing is a wonderful thing. They may feel good, but you need to keep making them feel good and remind them that they're doing an amazing thing, because they will get to a point of fatigue. The fifth thing, bring content to life. We live in an iPhone world. There is no reason why you cannot afford to do rich media. Make it live, breathe your organisation. Facebook Live, a wonderful thing. Sixth, love your tribe. Do it publicly. They will never tell you they want it, but let me tell you, they love it, and they love it a lot. Seventh thing, understand your supporters. So keep learning, keep listening, understand their motivations, their needs. Eighth, enrich your data. Remember the O, X and Y data. Ninth, do not give them any more than 6 ideas. Don't overwhelm them with choice. 10th, be nimble. Be ready for that next thing. It's not hard these days to be nimble in a digital world. And the 11th, walk in their shoes. Remember, you are not your supporter. Your supporters are very different. Always think about who you're communicating to. Give them an amazing experience. Okay, so they're the 11 golden rules in creating the tribe. Does anybody have any questions?
Klausimai? Galit klausti net lietuviškai, aš galiu pabandyti išverst, o kiti likę 100 žmonių gali pabandyti pataisyti. Nebus klausimų, bet bus klausimų. Neringa.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation, and actually there was lots of very important tips for all of us, I believe, because I represent a national cancer patient coalition. And most of funding comes from the state institution, different projects, and actually what we seek for to get some money from the ordinary people.
Yep.
So, and as we all saw today, you are an expert in this area. So maybe you could share with us some very simple advices how to run a successful campaign, or some tips what could be simple attraction of money from ordinary people.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways that you can fundraise, right? So, like if you think about like typical peer-to-peer, so it's really, really big in the UK and Australia and the US. So, for example, I'll tell you a really good example. So in Australia, there was a campaign called the World's Greatest Shave, okay? So that basically is where loads of people shave their hair off to raise money for cancer, leukemia. It sounds quite insane. I would never do it, but they raise a lot of money. It raised 21 million. Yeah. So, but what they did was they would set up a fundraising page. They would go out and ask their friends and family to donate to them because they were making such a big personal commitment. So to shave off all your hair, I would want a lot of money. I really would want a lot of money to shave off all my hair. I'm not quite sure what I would look like with a skinhead. But, you know, that was one of the key things that worked for them. It worked for the culture. It had that link between the cause and what they were doing. So, as we know, if you've got cancer and you go through chemo, most people lose their hair. It made sense of why they were shaving their hair off. They were showing that they are that committed, they wanted to raise money. So there's different ways that people can fundraise. That was one. Other people run the marathon and ask them to fundraise. Other people, so Pancreatic Cancer UK, done something very different. So what we've asked people to do, we're trying to find people with a common interest. So what we did was we went out and I don't know if many people know anything about pancreatic cancer, but it's a pretty horrific cancer to get. Survival rate 7%. So we need to get more awareness of pancreatic cancer. You don't really get many signs or symptoms. So what we wanted to do was to raise awareness that if we got people to treatment faster, that we could save lives, as simple as that. So we did ads explaining this, and we asked people to sign a petition so that we could lobby the UK government to help us get people get to treatment faster. Because on the NHS guidelines, it takes 62 days. We wanted to change it to 20 because we knew by shifting that bar, we would save lives. We got people to sign that petition. From there, we then asked them to become a regular giver. So for them to give money every month to our cause, so that we could raise more money to put it into research and to some of these faster treatment pathways. Again, a different approach, but it's how you can get people to give their own personal money to a cause. Why? Because they've all got a common interest in that cause. Now, loads and loads of different charities in the UK have that approach. It's like a value exchange. It's a two-step conversion pipeline, opposed to an individual saying, I am going to run the marathon, will all of you sponsor me? Same principle, i.e. it's not their money with peer-to-peer, it's your money. I'm doing something and taking all your money to give it to this cause. Whereas regular giving, it's my money. I'm dipping into my pocket, but it's public money. Does that make sense?
Hi, yeah, thank you as well for a very interesting presentation. You talked about the importance of using data, and
yes.
One was experience data, and you said instead of asking 40 questions, you should ask 2 questions. So what are the 2 questions you're measuring your tribe experience?
The best questions that I've found is how committed are you? How committed are you to that cause, and how connected are you to that cause? So by understanding how committed and connected they are, you can develop a matrix. So a good example is when I was at pancreatic cancer, talking about that treatment pathway petition we did. We had 115,000 people sign that petition. I needed to talk to those people to get them to become a regular giver. Kind of couldn't talk to 115,000 people. I'd still be on the phone today talking to those people. So what I did was I asked them to fill out a survey, so a really quick survey. How committed are you to Pancreatic Cancer UK, and how connected are you? So have they lost someone to pancreatic cancer or another cancer, or is it that they're really interested in research and they want to help us? Like, what is the reason of why they're doing it? By the way that they answered those 2 questions, I could develop a matrix which helped me go, the people who are the most committed and connected to that cause, they're the ones I need to talk to. All these others, great, if I can get to them, I'll email them, I'll do other ways to communicate them and take them on a pathway, but the ones I really want to love are those ones that are really connected and super committed to see change happen. So they're the ones that I spoke to on the telephone. So they're the 2 that I think for charities, not-for-profits, that actually really help see the biggest results. Does that answer? Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
My name is Elsa. I'm from Lithuanian Red Cross, and I just have a quick question also related with the engagement. So you talked about the surveys which you can send. So let's say if we have a donor base and we send out the survey asking random questions, what would you consider as the response rate which would be successful, and from what number is it worth to send such a thing for, let's say we have a couple of thousands in donor base? Thanks.
How many should you send it to?
And what's considered
rate?
The successful? Whether it's like 1% is okay, or 5%, or 20%.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. So what I would do is, in terms of the amount of people you should send it to, I would send it to as many people that it's relevant to send it to. There is no limit. The limit is probably your budget, especially if you're doing paper-based. If you're doing online, not so much. In terms of response rate, it's really varied. I've seen anything from 1% right up to 10%. So interestingly, when we did a post survey from that Demand Faster Treatment campaign at Pancreatic Cancer UK, we saw a 10.6% response rate, which I was absolutely blown away by. That is not normal. I would normally think about between 1% and 2% is a good response rate. But it depends how warm or cold your audience is. So the warmer your audience, the higher the response rate, right? So if these are people on your database, you should be getting 2% and upwards. If it's a cold audience, you could be getting 0.2, 0.5%. Just depends. So with this, because before we did that petition at Pancreatic Cancer, they had 19,000 people on their database. When we did the survey, 115,000 people responded. So we were quite a victim of our own success. We wasn't expecting it to go quite so well. So all of a sudden, our database quadrupled. And so we had a lot more cold people on our database. So we expected our response rates to go down, but it didn't. It went significantly up. So I think it depends on not just cold and warm, but also the content that you deliver with it. So one of the key things that we did is we use SurveyMonkey because we don't have a lot of money at the Pancreatic Cancer UK. We're quite a small charity. We embedded the first question of that survey in the email. So in the back end of SurveyMonkey, there's an e-invite. If you use that, you can embed the first question. That is really, really important tip to increase your response rates. Because when you're seeing the email and the content of your email, there, people go, oh, first question. Maybe there's only one question. They click on it, they're in, they're sucked in, that's it. You've got them. Excellent. Then they have to carry on and respond. So it's little tips like that that can really, really help your response rate. So it's just clever ways. So don't always worry about benchmarking. It's more important about what is the core metric for Red Cross for you.